Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you to this extraordinary meeting of Oberon Council on 2 p.m. on the 4th of May 2026. This meeting will be live streamed via Zoom webinar facilities. Recordings of council meetings or parts thereof cannot be copied, recorded, reproduced, reused or transmitted without the prior written consent of the General Manager. The meeting is being recorded and made publicly available on Council's website, and persons attending the meeting should refrain from making any defamatory statements. Council acknowledges that this meeting is being held on the traditional lands of the Wiradjuri, Gundungurra and Darug people and respects the history and culture of the elders both past and present. 2's record of attendance. I note that all councillors are present except councillors Clive McCarthy and Councillor Lauren Trembath. I'd ask someone, and they have asked for leave of absence. I'd ask someone to move a motion accepting their leave of absence.
Can I request what the leave of absence is?
One is overseas, and one is attendance of a funeral.
Okay. Happy to second.
Yeah. Moves Councillor Levis, seconded Councillor Hayden. I put the motion. All in favour? Accepted by the 7 councillors present. Are there any direct declarations of interest? Item 3. Yes, Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I have I declare a significant non-pecuniary conflict of interest in item 4.4 relating to the 356 applications due to the fact that I am co-president of the Barriga Agricultural Bureau, and I will leave the chamber for that specific item in the 356 in 4.4. And then,
are there any other declarations of interest? If not, we note declaration of interest by Councillor Hayden on item 4.4. 4 is reports for decision. 4.1, road funding update report. The recommendation is that Council endorse the changes to the financial year 2025-26 roads program, including the variations to block, roads to recovery and natural disaster funding allocations. Have a motion, please. Councillor O'Connor, seconded. Councillor Leveris. Councillor O'Connor.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. This report's a very good report, detailed, and it follows along the same lines as in our recent meetings. The same flow of changing, pushing a few things out. So I support this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Leveris.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, look, I'm supportive of the first safety first approach conveyed in the report, but I do have some concerns about the increasing project deferrals. Contract performance issues and rising costs as projects get delayed. Is there any future reports coming to council on how these will be managed, and if so we don't carry larger backlog and high costs next year? Through you to the Civil Service Director.
Sorry, can you repeat the last bit of your question, please?
Is there any future report coming to council on how these would manage the backlogs, and so we don't carry larger backlogs and higher costs into next year?
A report on how we manage the current backlog that we're creating?
I think what, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I think what Councillor Leveris is we're pushing projects into next year because of resourcing issues, which you've identified through that. But that may have implications for cost increases, and may have other implications on scheduling. So are we going to receive regular reports on that to keep us updated to ensure that we can manage those? Is that basically what you're saying?
Yeah.
Through the chair, any deferral has the risk of cost escalations. It seems to be an ever-going issue that we had done it 20 years ago would have cost us 50%.
Yeah.
We cannot avoid that. What we are committed on doing going forward, based on the latest works working title we had, is provide works updates going forward as to where we're at. Even in the next, like I've done it in the March one, to say where we're at with different projects and works. So in the budget workshops we had with councillors, we identified the projects in routes that we intend to do in the financial year 26-27. And some of them that we're deferring or deferred in the February report and this report now form part of that.
And you'll be providing updates to council on the process of those as they move forward in the next year.
As part of the works
Yes, report.
update report that we have
So,
committed to
so
provide.
through the chair, we've committed to providing a 3-monthly update in those projects anyway, and we propose to continue to do
You're
that.
happy with that? Yeah.
So anything further, Councillor Lewis?
No.
Yeah. Councillor Tucker, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Couple of questions and then a couple of comments. My questions are both on page 8. The first one is about Dog Rocks Road. I'm just interested to know what is the location and length of the section of road that we would be planning to do, and wondering if that's related to the issue we had a couple of years ago where the final seal hadn't been applied to a section that was primer sealed and never final sealed. Is it the same bit of road as that?
Through the chair, I'm not aware of a leg in final seal a few years ago.
Right.
The section that we're intending to do is between 2 forestry entries and exits, and it's a stretch of about, and I'm happy to refer to my works manager, it's a stretch of about 2.4 kilometers.
2.4 kilometers, full width 8 meters, and it starts from this forestry bit. We have airstrip road. I think there's airstrip road. So from that bit you go towards Bathurst boundary for about 2.4 kilometers, and that's switch.
Okay, thank you. And from that description, I don't think it is the section I was referring to. I think it's further along, so thank you for that.
I think through the chair, the report highlights it's to cover the naturally occurring asbestos section,
yeah.
and that is the section that you're referring to, I believe.
No, I don't think so.
No, it's not.
Through the chair, also we're currently undertaking a geotechnical investigation there as part of the forward planning, but also it will identify seals of cults that we have there, if that is relevant.
So, if I may speak, we have undertaken some preliminary sections to see where the naturally occurring asbestos is, and the mapping shows that we have naturally occurring asbestos in the area, and as we all know that the rocks on the banks still have it. So just to maintain our procedures with work health and safety requirements, we need to do such investigations before we touch any areas, and that's what we are doing.
And I'm assuming where it's got Dog Rocks geotech testing, asbestos and de-sealing, that should be resealing?
No.
It's
So
de-sealing.
for now it will be resealed, because the current situation of the road is as such that we cannot leave the road in the situation. So because we have entered into the winter season where we cannot seal again, so what we are trying to do is a 2-stage process, where in the stage 1 we're going to take off the seal and do the compaction again, so that we have safe surface for motorists to travel on. And the second stage is going to be with the pavement investigation, what the solution should be. With this, I am going with the geotechnical investigations first, because we cannot touch the ground if we know of any chances that there would be asbestos present in the construction site. So anything we do there would be in line with creating environmental management plans and all of those things which are required by legislation.
Do you mind if I ask a
No, go for your
follow-on
life.
question in that? Sorry. We know that area has asbestos, natural asbestos everywhere. I understood that originally it was there was an area where a lot of it was put, but the road may still exist on asbestos, and it was compacted and a lot of work was done at that stage. So you're saying we're going to have to redo that work? And does the $65,000 just include the geotech and de-sealing? It doesn't include resealing the area? That's a stage 2 that's unfunded at this stage, is that correct?
It's incorporated.
It's in about
26, 27.
It's in 26, 27.
Just if I can, the due diligence undertaken by council's engineering staff to make sure that they're not doing work that could uncover what we had previously done would be what the investigation will outline. It is not going back to the stage one of seeing whether there is anything there. It's making sure that when we're doing works in that, the cover is still being maintained. There hasn't been any inundation of asbestos and those types of things. Where also WHS provisions make sure there'll be exclusion zones that we don't touch and how we have to monitor and work with that. So that's what the investigation will outline. My question, Dash, is that noting Councillor Tucker's comments, is that the engineers would have done an inspection of the entire length of Dog Rocks Road and come up with that as the area of most need, I'd expect, based on our current scenarios?
I believe there should be something in the system, but till now I haven't uncovered anything like that with such information.
Only that, no, not in terms of, I'm talking about pavement. So we put a project together at 2.4 kilometres because that's where the significant damage to the pavement is.
Yes, correct.
There could be others, but I think that is the project is around what is the most in need of that work right now. Would I be
correct? And I believe that would be different than the section which was last resealed.
Thank you. Councillor Tucker, yes, you've got another question.
Yes, another question, and then some comments afterwards as well. The second question is on the same page relating to the block grant, and it refers to money moving out of capital and into operational to the amount of 244,000. So I'm just wondering, is that a reduction in proposed regional road reseals, or what capital works is it coming out of?
Through the chair, there hadn't been reseals proposed for Abercrombie Road this financial year, but there was heavy patching. The amount of heavy patching that we could complete in the construction period has been completed, and with block grant we do not want to lose it. Yeah. So it's use it or lose it for the financial year, and there is a backlog on vegetation management. Yeah. So that's what we propose.
So it's coming out of heavy patching.
Yeah, or of construction generally. So the allocation had been traditionally, and we said, well, no, the requirement is more on the maintenance, and also the construction window has closed.
All right, thank you for that. A couple of comments I want to make as well, Mr. Mayor. My concern, or my query, as I've already emailed the Director this morning, was, or in fact last week, was the report sets out what projects the money is moving into, but I was totally confused about what projects were losing money in the process. I had exactly the same problem in the February report, and I couldn't, and you know, I tried drawing up my own little chart to work out where the money was coming from and what projects would now not be going ahead. I had exactly the same problem with this one, so I have asked for some more information on that.
Is that in relation to the block grant specifically?
No, that all of the funding programs. So I accept that was too much to put together in time for this meeting, but I assume that will come through in due course in the near future, just so I'm clear on where the money is coming from as well as where it's going to. My other comments, the same as I've said before, and I'm sure you're all getting sick of it, is it makes comments in a couple of points in the report about, it says this will facilitate long-term recovery. Well, that's exactly the bit that I disagree with. I think going away from our reseal program does the opposite. I think it compromises our long-term recovery, and the pressure of our short-term maintenance will just continue to increase, and I can't see us ever getting back to having a decent reseal program. It says much the same in the second paragraph in the comments of the report. Protect the long-term integrity. I don't agree with that. I have submitted my suggested terms of reference for a review of the Morrison Low report, and as you know, Mr. Mayor, because I copied you in, that's the main point that I made, that I would like to see more detailed advice on the importance and what would be needed in having a a decent reseal program. So I know that that discussion is yet to come about whether we're going to go ahead with a review of Morrison Road, but I see that as my most important point to include. And just as a final comment, because of all of that, because of my fundamental disagreement with not doing reseals, I will be futilely voting against the motion, just as a little protest. Thank you.
Councillor Hayden?
Yes, I also wanted some clarification around dog rocks, and I've heard from this discussion between one particular forest road and another, and I heard Dash mention that it will go to the Bathurst LGA boundary, because the main section of that Dog Rocks Road, that is absolutely an absolute danger and a mess and full of potholes. You can't avoid one pothole or you're running into two other potholes, all the way from the top of the end of the forest all around the windy curves down to the bridge. It's just an absolute mess, and that is the section that never had any work on it previously, when the previous section of road was sealed several years ago. So that portion of the road is the most dangerous, going around those windy sections of the hill, and I'm just wondering why we're not doing that portion of the work that is the worst, and we're doing a section between those two roads mentioned.
So maybe I'm not very clear about the locations, but I can tell you that is the very exact section we will be working on. So where the reseal ends, you can see the last reseal being done.
At the end of the forest.
Yes, and that's where we are starting. And the section you're telling would be the same section we'll be starting working on. So,
in the hill, the curve.
yes, we have marked.
Going down to the bridge.
Yes, we have marked the section with the pink paint as well. So, if anyone wants to look at the exact segment we want to work on, which is 2.4 kilometers long, everyone will be finding some pink markers on.
So I'm a little unclear. Which bridge are you talking about? The one that's the boundary between, which is on the basically the Campbell's. Is that the bridge you're talking about? The narrow bridge, one lane, which you do the immediate right on the Bathurst side.
So there's also one more thing. We are not going exactly up to the boundary of Bathurst. That will be way more than 2.4 kilometers we're talking about. So we start with where that reseal ends, and that's exactly where that road goes into the airstrip pit, or whatever the road is of the forestry. We start from that point, we go to its west towards Bathurst for 2.4 kilometers.
There's no airstrip road there. If you're heading,
Airstrip road,
heading west.
There is.
From the top of the hill at the end of the forest and start heading west.
So you come, that's Briar Park.
It's all the windy bits where you overlook the valley.
The airstrip road, there is an airstrip road there, and it's about where that, just before where that asbestos area was confined. So it's on the Black Springs side of where the depository was for the asbestos, just on the Black Springs side, going towards the bridge that is the boundary. That's what he's saying. I've got airstrip up here, so I know exactly where it is.
Okay, so because that is chopped, you would have driven.
Yes, I know.
And
Yes. So the bit there is where the asbestos dump is, right? So the road does that round where it is. They're doing that bit because that's the airstrip road just on the Black Springs side of that, towards the boundary, 2.4 kilometres. Am I right, Dash?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so why are all the signs on the other section of the road?
Sorry?
Because I noticed when I went out the other week, there's a whole heap of signs that says roadworks ahead, roadworks ahead. I did bring that up with you, Gary, when I was driving.
I've been past there as well.
Yeah, I'm a bit confused.
The general manager drove down there a week or so.
He would have seen
There's some signage up
Yeah.
there, but I thought it was just to reinforce that there was some work to be
Carried out going forward.
I see that it's also to assist where, to slow traffic down where there's potholes and all
Correct.
that sort of stuff, so I'd suspect that that's what the program was at that point.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Mayor. Just going back to Councillor Tucker's comments regarding the February, that report was quite comprehensive, and I did reconcile it quite easily. The movement of funds, it was all there to be viewed. So it was a good report. And just another matter I'm putting it under road funding. I've travelled a few times lately to Goulburn and beyond, and the Abercrombie Hill, I think that's the most unique hill I've ever travelled in terms of, if you're a truckie, highest risk in terms of our area. I would categorise it as the highest risk. And I know you've been advocating to get lights at the top. I'm just wondering, I was thinking the other day when I was driving down it, to fast track that, can we get trucking organisations to submit some, needs and discussing the troubles with that hill, and then present that to the minister?
We have
do something to push on.
We have made representations, as you're aware, of the Minister very recently. I think the Technical Services Director has an update on that, because we've also been seeking, priority funding to do some work there.
Through the chair, after it last happened that a truck went over that hill, it was prioritised by the mayor to us, and we've investigated with Transport a sign plan, so we come up with our own proposal, and they said, oh, you've got to do it a bit differently, you've got to measure the grade, so it's all, so they offered to provide a sign plan to us. That was last year. It hasn't eventuated, but now, as of last week, we've actually got it. So now we can order the signs and make sure that we can put it in. So we will use our current block grant funding that we had earmarked for that in the first instance, where it was prioritised due to traffic diversions, and we did raise it with the minister to escalate it through the task force, and they said, okay, we've got to prioritise it and get that ready. So the plan, we just need to look at how to implement it with the recent signage of falling rocks that we saw.
So will they be lit up at night? And
we have proposed flashing
Flashing
signs.
Yeah,
Flashing
yeah.
lights.
We, at the same time, we've also put an application in for the reprioritisation of that, the reclassification of that road to a state road, regional. We have to fund 50%.
So the traffic there is just increased.
Well, and the trucks and oversized movements we've been also mentioned with the Minister, because they can't go that way. Oversized have been banned up Scenic Hill, they're going this way.
Okay, thank you.
Well, they're proposing, Mr Mayor.
Well,
we can't say that unless they get caught.
Any other discussion? That's Frank's right of reply. All right. All in favour of all in favour of the motion as per the recommendation. All except Councillor Tucker and Councillor Hayden. So the motion passed. We go to 4.2. Quarterly Budget Review Statement 3, January to March 2026. The recommendation is that Council 1 receives and notes the quarterly budget review statements for the period ending 31st of March 2026. 2 notes the budget variations arising from notice previously considered by Council and other grant funded or internal reallocations with no net impact on Council's overall financial position, including A, roads program changes considered earlier on the agenda, including roads to recovery, block grant and natural disaster projects, and B, plant replacement program adjustments resolved by Council outside of the quarterly budget review process. 3, endorses the following operational plan budget adjustments. A, sewage treatment plan project budget amendments and associated multi-year cash flow modelling. B, Oberon Fitness and Leisure Centre wage budget reductions. C, routine maintenance council contract net operating adjustments, and D, insurance and overhead reallocations between council funds. 4, authorises the general manager to make minor administrative changes as required. Of a motion, please. Thank you, Councillor O'Connor. Seconder, please. Thanks, Councillor Graham. Councillor O'Connor.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and thank you for the very detailed report. In some ways, it'd be great to be able to have less detail, but for a humble councillor. I've got a couple of questions, but I might just delay that a bit further in the in the meeting, if that's okay?
I think it'd be better to do it now, because you'll only get
Oh, there was
the
one
vote
typo. I sent an
Campbell's.
email. I sent an email to our director, but I think unless you want to speak to any of that.
No, through the chair, just one earlier clarification, there was a keying area in one of the OLG return. That's on page... Give me a second. 26.
Yeah.
That relates to the external restrictions there. So if you see a negative 2.391, that is a keying error on that one. That was a clarification on that return table. So we'll adjust that into the updated paper.
Thank you. Councillor Graham?
There was a lot of information there, so it would have seemed to fit together well, so you could cross-check things. It was good. Thank you.
So, Director, my reading of this report is that on current indications we've turned a potentially $300,000 loss for the end of the financial year into a $50,000 profit. Is that right?
Through the chair, as stated in the report, that is correct. I would say that work has been undertaken from the outset. It's not been something that's just happened overnight. We've been looking for efficiencies across the board, particularly in our operating expenditure right throughout the year. We've looked at the ways that we forecast budgeting, as discussed with Council previously, the way that we look at on costs and equity of all the different functions that we do. So yes, this QBR, that is the case, that we have some adjustments there that have brought that into a surplus position. We do note that there's still 2 months to go in the financial year, but that's been an outcome of an ongoing bit of work that Zoe and the team and everyone have been looking right across EMT to find efficiencies. So that is the case, but it's been an outcome of 8 months of looking at our efficiencies across the board.
Okay, but that still doesn't protect us from our overarching situation, which is that our operating profit is still negative, really.
Yeah, that's through the chair. The operating performance ratio, our operating expenditure, our operating revenue is our big area that we continue to have headwinds. It's we look through the ratios. There is it is starting to trend in the right direction, but that those headwinds are real. The challenges are real, and we're very aware of that. Each year you have a growing depreciation that you need to factor into all those ratios, which 6.8 and 7 million each year. So the challenges are real. There's no getting away from that. And how we control our expenditure and become more efficient is the real challenge, and that's where we'll continue to look at that every day. So.
Yeah, look, I'm going to be voting against this motion as it's the recommendation as it's put. I'm happy to receive and note quarterly budget review statements. I'm happy with number 2. I'm not going to endorse the following operational plan budget adjustments in A. B is okay, but not the others, so I'll be voting against it. I don't believe there's no net outcome. It may not be in that report with the moving around of, funding and moving money around from reserves, but I'm just not happy with it, and I'm extremely concerned about Council's long-term financial plan.
Councillor Levin?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And look, I'm less excited about the $57,000 surplus headline we highlight to the community because of one-off adjustments. I know, look, our underlying, operating deficit is $5.5 million. New South Wales Treasury actually looks, at that when it's kind of determining what risk do we have as a council. And what's happening, I think Matt alluded, geopolitically, we're going to have some really challenging times ahead. So that deficit's just going to balloon, in my opinion. And the $279,000 sort of cash position, that's a very low, tiny buffer really for escalating costs, which we know is coming. Any emergencies or any other revenue shocks we may incur. So that's just my concerns.
Well, I did make a comment a minute ago that that's a profit, not an operating profit. It's the operating profit reserves us this year, but more importantly going forward.
I'm agreeing with you.
As in every council, yes. Council Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I can complete. Just some questions. They're all page 16 on the section relating to insurance and overhead review. So at first glance, when you look at the bottom line here, we've gone from a significant deficit into a small surplus, and at first glance that looks great. But I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly that part of that change from deficit into surplus is a result of that insurance and overhead review, and that is not a saving as such. It's just taking some of those insurance costs out of water and sewer reserves, and that doesn't affect the bottom line that gets reported as a surplus or deficit. Have I got that correct?
Through the chair, yes, that is correct. However, with the water, the waste and the sewer fund, they're all restricted and reserved within themselves. So by doing these adjustments, we're able to allocate appropriately the expenditure to those funds and take the funds from those reserves, which then frees up the general operating fund to cover its own portion.
And I understand the purpose behind it, and all, that seems fair enough to me. I'm not criticising that. That was just to make sure I was clear in my mind about how that impacted the surplus or deficit. But leading on from that is that means that we have withdrawn or are withdrawing that amount from the water and sewer funds. And so what impact is that going to have? What are those reserves intended to be used for, and what is the impact on those other purposes by withdrawing that fairly large amount out of those reserves? Was it earmarked for something that we now can no longer do?
Through the chair, no, there's been no requirement to reduce the services in those. They've been able to successfully cover the expenditure out of the reserves and still enable what we anticipated to for the long-term financial plan as well.
So the money's sitting in reserves. We must have had in mind that, in 4 years' time we're going to have this project and we're going to do that. Does it impact that long-term plans for what we were going to do from those reserves?
Yeah, no.
Okay, thank you. And perhaps more important, we've done that for this year, taking that money out of the water and sewer reserves. But presumably we're going to keep taking a similar amount out from water and sewer every year from now on as a fair contribution towards those insurance costs. So are we making changes in our budget for future years to generate that amount of money in water and sewer to cover those insurance and overhead costs?
Yeah. Through the chair, yes, they have been factored into the long-term financial plans and ensured that the revenue is appropriate.
So we won't in future have to keep taking it from reserves.
Correct.
Thank you, that was all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Right to apply, Councillor? Not, I put the motion as per the recommendation. All in favour? Carried. It's carried, not by Councillor Hayden and Councillor Tucker. You can't.
I voted in favour.
Voted in favour. Okay. Councillor Hayden voted against. Okay. Good. 4.3.
Mr. Mayor, before we go, could this next recommendation be moved individually in the parts?
So it's a receipt.
did that.
But yes.
And then if it gets moved, that's seconded in the whole. It's still
So I will
considered
read the recommendation. I've heard your thing. I'll put a motion procedurally. I'll suspend business. Have asked procedurally if if we've got a seconder to move these things individually, and then we'll see if that passes. Right.
I also have a different motion, Mr Mayor.
Right, well, I'll read the recommendation first. Council 1, prioritise the installation of new pedestrian crossing in Dart Street between Fleming and North Streets at a suitable location as outlined in this report. 2, fund the new pedestrian crossing in item 1 and associated works from the remaining TI Legacy intersection from the TI Legacy Fund project budgets for Dart and Dudley pedestrian upgrade, Ross Street / Queen Street intersection design and lighting footpath over and high to Albion Street and reprioritising the outstanding projects accordingly. 3, fund the drainage improvements as described in the report in the North Street Water Fill Station, the Albion Street, Abercrombie and O'Connell Roads roundabout and the corner of North and Oberon Streets from the remaining TI Legacy Fund project budgets for curb and gutter, 7-year program, stormwater pits and Richards Park drainage and reprioritising the outstanding projects accordingly. 4, repurpose the TI allocation of 50,000 for street verges, rock retaining walls from construction of a new wall to maintenance, repair and improvements of current walls. 5, support the extension to have legacy TI funds expended by the end of the financial year 2026-27. I suspend business because we have a proposed motion.
You can listen to Councillor Tuckers first if you like.
Do I have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to put forward a motion, Mr Mayor. I have provided it to Hannah earlier today. It's quite long.
Well, it's a motion because we haven't got a motion yet.
Oh, that's right.
So it's a motion. Yes? Right.
But it's all turned to that recommendation.
Yes, it's all turned to the recommendation. It is the motion.
Mine is quite long. It's in 3 parts. So part 1 lists those projects that I am proposing to allocate funds to. Some of them are exactly the same as, or just continuing current programs. Number 2 is to not proceed with the curb and gutter in Edith Road near Cantwell Lane. And number 3 is to endeavour to complete the works by the end of this year, and that any further small amounts of money remaining, we get a report early in 2027 to decide what to do with any remaining funds. So,
do you have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Mr. Hayden, right.
So I'm just not sure how is the best way to go about it. Would there be of any value moving into
Committee of the Whole?
Committee of the Whole, do you think?
Well, you've got to move with the second just a bit, unless you want to deal with these individually.
Well, we're going to move in a second, but we can still move into Committee of the Whole if you wish to discuss it. Do you have someone to move us into Committee of the Whole?
I'll move that.
Okay.
Councillor Taylor can't move us into Committee of the Whole.
No, we've got Councillor Leverett and Councillor O'Connor. So. Okay, all in favour? So we go into Committee of the Whole. Yes.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So, as you can see, it's part 1 in particular is fairly long, and being in Committee of the Whole, rather than my going through each individual item where I'm proposing funds, I thought it might be a bit more manageable and easier for people to follow if we did one at a time and hear any contributes or hear any suggested changes. And
So,
maybe are you happy to do it that way?
I am. Maybe if you could indicate those ones where we're really departing from what the recommendations, what the papers present. So, yeah, that would be the easiest as well.
Okay, well,
just for your benefit, councillors, is that the way that it's come through is 1 and then 1.
Yeah.
We will endeavour to have them A, B, C, but for the fact that we're in Committee of the Whole and running through the first section, if you're comfortable with that, we can move
so
on.
when we're referring to them, we might need to say 1-1 and 1-2 and 1-3 and so on.
If you're in section 1, 1 is 2, 3, 4, 5, but it'll be A, B, C, D.
I tried to number them and my computer wouldn't let me do it in the way I wanted. So in number 1, parts 1, 2, 3, 1, which is improvements at the common, remains as per the current allocation to finish the couple of bits of work remaining. Part 2 is beautification, street tree planting, leave the remaining budget allocation in place to continue with that program. Number 3 is completion of CCTV upgrades. That's just retaining the remaining budget allocation. Number 4 is continuation of the playground Make Safe program. That's a continuation or retaining the current budget allocation of 186,000. I don't know if that will complete the whole program, but it retains all the money currently sitting there for that purpose. Number 5 is completion of the swimming pool upgrades, retaining the current budget allocation of 24 and a bit thousand. Number 6 is improvements to accessible curb crossings. That remains as per the current allocation and as recommended in the report, which is just under 45,000 available there. Where I start to diverge from the report is in the next one, which would be number 7, improvement to stormwater pits. Just looking at that one at this stage, I'm proposing retaining the current budget allocation of $42,855 for that program. So the purpose of that is to install lintels on pits which currently only have grated entries, and those frequently get blocked and water bypasses them, resulting in large flows going past the pits and further down the road. We have modified several pits a couple of years ago, and we did quite a lot back when I was an employee, but there are still a few more remaining which need to be done, and I think that would be a very worthwhile project, and helps to distribute the benefit right around the town. So the report talks about not going ahead with that work and using that money plus some other drainage money on some other projects, 3 other projects. So I'd like to comment on those other projects as well while I'm at it, if I may, and I won't have to then repeat myself when we get on to the next drainage project. So I'm sure there would be many drainage projects in various places around the town. We could sit here for ages and everyone could keep coming up with possible projects. I think we should get on with those projects which Council has twice already resolved to go ahead with. One of the alternatives is the Albion Street Abercrombie drainage project near the roundabout. I make the comment that I believe that is outside the TI zone. I could be proved wrong, but I don't think that is eligible to be done from these funds. The project at Oberon and North Street, I agree that would be a very worthwhile project if we could do it. I remember we looked at it a couple of times years ago, and it is difficult. I think it would take a lot of time and a lot of money to investigate and come up with a design that would work. The problem, if I recall correctly, is that the pipes that you might look at feeding into are small and shallow. And to get to a pipe that's big enough to take the flow, you have to keep chasing it further and further down the street. And that's where it's just going to get out of hand. So I think we will find that it takes ages and probably then out of our budget anyway. And the third alternative project is over at the filling station in North Street. And yeah, it's another one that I agree it would be nice to do, but I would just personally, I think that improving the pits and a couple of other drainage projects already in the program, I personally rate them as a higher priority. So if you'd like to open it up to Any other comments before we move on to the next item? I'm happy to do it that way if you're happy to.
Yeah, technical services, so maybe I'd like to respond to those first.
To all of them?
Yeah, to the ones there. Well, so the changes, which I think, the changes are from 7, aren't they?
Yeah,
So
well,
the-
maybe at the moment, just in relation to the pits and the alternative drainage programs, and I'll get on to the others after that.
Right.
Through the chair, I'm not commenting on the ones that just repeat previous resolutions,
No.
because we've already resolved, or council has resolved to do that. Number 7, stormwater pit. At the time it was proposed, I mentioned that for that amount, there would be very limited amounts of linters that could be replaced from a graded or retrofitted, as it normally requires the whole pit to be done. And I didn't seem to think it was an efficient use of funds to undertake these type of works. That was my comment at the time in May 2024, if I remember correctly, or could have been a bit later. Rock retaining walls, the comment is
Can
contained
we come
in
back to that?
It's only 7.
We're only talking about pits for the drainage.
I thought it was one by one.
No, only 7.
7. Okay, the next one, you're going to talk to the retaining wall?
Well, I can, or does anyone else want
Well, is
to?
there any other comments in relation to 7?
I agree with number 7. I mean, this was brought up a few years ago, especially with some of those stormwater pits overflowing, causing flooding in other areas, so I'm happy to support that.
Through the chair, what I also like to highlight, as I said, the 3 projects we proposed are highlighted in the report in detail. One of them is relating to or giving an example in Fleming Street, where we were asked to investigate why our seal on the accessible parking outside of the library is failing, which is due to insufficient drainage. So the water accumulated peels off the seal. So now we've got to fix that somehow, which is, something that would like not to do, because we would have liked to done it in a way that doesn't happen in the first place. But one issue where we can see that, and it could be that it's a much more bigger project than anticipated, was on North Street, where a similar issue is the water accumulates, and that's the next thing we expect to happen, that the seal peels off, for example, in the parking area near the medical centre. If the pit is shallow or not, I'm not sure in how far that was investigated there. It could be quite tricky with services, and that's why the budget was quite varied. If the Abercrombie roundabout is outside FTI or not, I'm unsure. The project that was the biggest value estimated for us as the alternative was
It is within.
okay.
You're saying it's in the
It's
TI
in.
zone?
Yes. Right on.
The one
Right
that
on the
we had
bedroom, right on.
prioritised, also including the budget, was the North Street one, where we just rehabilitated the road, and it appears that the previous failures were due to insufficient drainage. So we would really like to prioritise that to ensure longevity of the work that we've just done in that location. And that was valued the highest, I think about 160 from memory, that we saw that would cost to do that in that location.
Yes, Councillor.
Yeah, I just got a couple of questions. How much funds are left in the TI fund at the current time?
Through the chair.
Yes.
Yes. Yep, so through the chair, the TI money as at 30th of April 2026 currently has $632,218, noting that we did over allocate back in the start of 2024, so the project's budget remaining is $703,488 as of the 30th.
So given the figure, and I know a lot of individual councillors' views on this stem back a long time, but in the way I'd see this is that with the small amount of money we've got, number one, we don't start anything new, so I would not look to do anything new, like there's a new crossing allocated. I'd be certainly doing the works that our director has indicated, because they're working on existing structures that need repair. I'd just be concentrating on those things within the town boundary that needs repairs, nothing new, if that helps, rather than, I'm not going to go into individual projects, but I can fully understand what the director's direction is. Thank you.
I'd just like to add that what Councillor Tucker has brought up is what council had resolved in previous councils, and I don't think we need to keep moving away from what we've already had as resolutions in the past. We need to get on and get the work done and stop changing to new, and I think Councillor Tucker's put forward.
Councillor Hayden, can you indicate what resolution was improvements to stormwater puts provisioning of lintel opens? When was that resolved by council?
Sorry?
You just said these were subject to previous resolutions of council, improvements to stormwater pits. When was that
There
resolved?
what? That was 23, 24.
24,
24.
around about April, May 24.
Yeah.
And then a few months ago, we decided to stick with what council had previously decided. So this is the third time we're talking about it.
One comment I would like to make, as in what's previously been resolved, one of our struggles we have with completing TR legacy fund is that council resolved to do things, but however at the same time allocated budget, which was found to be insufficient once we investigated it further. So we cannot possibly execute the resolution because the funds are not there. Hence the suggestion to reprioritise by using the allocated funds.
I'd like to comment on that too, Mr Mayor. For taking that as an example, the stormwater pits, it was an amount not to say any particular number of pits. The idea was that we do pits until the money runs out. It's the same with the rock retaining walls, which is the next one. So I'm suggesting, and in fact the report leaves that
money. Are we staying to the pits at the moment?
Well, I thought we'd finished.
Right. Any other discussion on the pits? Right, go to the retaining walls.
So it's the same comment with the retaining walls. It wasn't specifying which walls or how much walls. It was saying, here's 50,000, go away and do as many as you can within that money. Mm-hmm. So there's no question there of not providing enough money. It is just to try to get some of them done to continue what I think is an attractive feature of the town of tidying up street verges, and I've suggested a number of locations around the town where it could be done. So the high priority ones I've suggested are just low walls, which would be done for cosmetic and appearance purposes, and to make it easier for residents to maintain their verges rather than leaving a stick behind the curb, which people just cannot maintain. So there's no structural component to it at all, and doesn't need any design. Back to notes. I'd also comment that as far as I'm concerned, the TI fund is for new works that actually improve the town. I oppose using it for repairs and maintenance. I think that should come out of town streets. I think the TI fund is to extend the new construction works through the town. So that would be my comment on the rock retaining walls.
So excuse me, improvements to stormwater pits, you wouldn't think that would be appropriate because that's not a new work, that's maintenance of an old work.
No, I would see that as more than maintenance. And going back to the Director's comments about water damaging seal, I'd say exactly the same thing about those pits where the water bypasses the pits, bypasses the existing grate, flows out onto the bitumen, and you can see the damaged bitumen. So the purpose in that is exactly the same as what the Director is talking about in other locations.
Through the Chair, we're also proposing a big program. The drainage issue has been highlighted throughout this council many times previously, and the issues...
Do you have a problem with Councillor Hayden? What are you huffing about?
Beg your pardon, Mr Mayor, I was just breathing. Thank you very much.
Especially in the ones where we've got established street trees which roots appear to damage and block stormwater drainage. So we've proposed a fairly large, as part of our budget workshop, a fairly large project to inspect and clean pits and pipes through our staff and contractors. Just because it's overflowing doesn't necessarily mean there's not enough flowing in, because the pit's not big enough or not frequent enough. It could be, another issue. And another issue I've highlighted with the previous council, some of you are part of that, in my tech services introduction was issues or challenges I've seen, and one was a lack in maintenance for our stormwater drainage system to start with. So that's something that we still need to improve on, and cleaning pipes and pits out more frequent can ease some of the pressure you're mentioning with regard to changing of pits.
Well, I would say it doesn't ease that pressure, because what happens where there's only a grate, even if it's completely clear, when the rain starts, I've seen it over and over and over again, grass and twigs and leaves get washed down and block that grate just after the rain starts, and because the grate is blocked and there's no lintel, the water bypasses around it, and then people come and complain after the rain event, say, look, council, the reason this happened is council hadn't cleaned the pit out. Well, it's just not true. It happened during the rain event, and installing a lintel effectively eliminates that problem, and I've seen that those recent ones down in Dudley and Earl Street just locked up so quickly after rain or during rain. Hasn't happened since we modified them and put the lintels in.
Through the chair, also another thing that we potentially can improve on is street sweeping. I did mention that as well, so if that's cleared out, it doesn't happen. With the lintel, this is pro and cons for everything, with the lintel potentially, whatever doesn't get held back by a grid just ends up in the drain.
No, I don't.
Right,
Can I just, I don't think anyone disagrees with any of the issues that you raise. What staff are trying to do, noting that we are trying to get back to basics in terms of how do we manage the very things that councillors have raised as an issue. What are options available to us to in fact help delineate that?
And we're all arguing for drainage works. It's just a matter of which drainage works
are the priority.
And I'm arguing for improving the pits. Is there anything else on rock retaining walls before I move on to the next one?
Through the chair, on the rock retaining walls, I understand the preference to say, well, we don't want to use something for maintenance only, we should use maintenance budget. There was an alternative proposal in the report itself to consider the Edith Road rock wall, should council want to consider that, considering it's a prominent part of the town entry opposite the common and the maintenance issue. That was one proposal, however, there's insufficient budget for that as well, so it doesn't fit in with the back to basics either. It was just an alternative to do something new and
I don't agree with the faux wall. I don't want a fake wall. I want a real wall. So, yeah.
And it was also why I was suggesting small walls, because you can just stop when the money runs out.
Correct.
Shall I move on? Or?
I have a question. Noting that previously the issue of the faux wall came up and it didn't pass. If a faux wall was put up, is it then possible in the future to face it with rock? If people had problems with its appearance?
Through the chair, I don't believe you can make a rock wall. Normally it's vertical, however the faux ones are in line with the embankment, so it's straight on.
Straight on, yes.
Yeah, so it will be, there was one example image in the report where you can see that. So you can make them look like real ones by the stuff you carve into them. And I believe that Transport has done something similar recently at Janolan Caves that I didn't have a picture of that at the time. I would have liked to use that. I'm not sure if you've got any on that one.
Ben, the project manager, still hasn't reached back out. But so Transport had a similar kind of problem where they wanted some natural stone wall to be erected, but due to budgetary concerns, they were looking for some economical option which gives the same look and makes everyone happy, which was something like a faux wall, and the look was really appreciated by the locals and the people, and that was showcased in one of the PEG meetings which happened in Dubbo for the Central West region. So I was pretty amazed by the look of it, and it really didn't give any feeling that it would be a fake wall, and it was huge. So I would surely forward that through director to yourself for a look if you want to have a look, and that is exactly on where the works are happening on General Road.
I mean, we have resolved not to do it. I asked the question because it was raised.
Yeah.
All right, the next one.
The next one is the Dart and Dudley Street intersection, and I've suggested a revised allocation of 80,000. Now, up until now, we have an allocation of 59, I think it is, and that was based on a quote which was obtained from a contractor 3 or 4 years ago to do that work. So the design was completed, it was approved through TELC. We decided to go ahead. The quote came in higher than the budget that was available at that time, because it was, I can't remember, it was either 51 or 54,000 was the quote, somewhere around there. Since that time, we've put in a couple of grant applications for that project based on that estimate of mid-50s. And so I am surprised that 59 would not be fairly close to the mark. Nevertheless, I've suggested that we bump that up to 80. It is an important safety project. As I say, it originally came from complaints from people going to school, and you only have to look at school start time in the morning. It can be quite a mess, that intersection, and quite a high potential for accidents. And I think this project would really reduce those risks substantially. I was very surprised by the comment in the report that it could be up to 130,000, given the previous quote was low 50s. I would have thought 80,000 should be plenty, and I would have thought that our own staff could do some of the work ourselves.
Do you want to comment on that, Director of Technical Services?
Through the chair, we actually received quotes, and just the quotes on the concrete work exceeded the allocation. The rest of the work would be installing of signage, line marking, traffic control. I'm not sure what else I left out. Some of the work can be done by us, like installing of signs and traffic control. However, if $80,000, which should be allocated to this project, we are left in a position again that we cannot execute it, because the cost estimates and quotes that we have exceed that. There's not much I can do about it. I can't just book half 2 operations just to get it done. So
I don't know which contractor the previous quote came from, and I don't know which contractor your current quote comes from, but I just can't see anywhere near that amount in that project. I just cannot see it. So while we're on it, I should make my comments.
So, Councillor Tucker, if we go and get quotes, if we get quotes and they come in, we're not in a position to be able to discount those quotes back to a figure.
No.
So what does So what does the Technical Services Director gets a quote, and the quote comes in, and the Technical Services said we're already going to do certain works ourselves. But if the quotes come in and they're greater than 80,000, and we've allocated 80,000, what do we do?
Get more quotes.
Yeah, I don't know.
So we go out and get more quotes, and what happens if we get all quotes that don't come in under 80? No, I want to know, answer the question.
Review it down the track.
I don't know how many quotes we have at the moment, whether it's just one or whether we have several, but yes, I agree with you, Mr. Mayor. If prices have gone up so much from low 50s to 130,000 in a couple of years, well, I don't know what's going on. I know there have been obviously substantial price increases, but to go up by 2.5 times, I just cannot see it.
Well, I'll ask the Director to comment.
Can I just make a comment? If there's 56 already in there, but the budget was low 50s, we would have done the project.
Well, but we kept putting it off because we were applying for grants, that's the thing.
Correct. We were applying for grants in that, yep.
We applied for 2 or 3 grants to do that project. But I agree, if we'd jumped in and done it straight away, we could have got it done. but also the proposal in the report is to use some of that money, or use all of that money, to do the works for the new pedestrian crossing proposed for Dart Street, and so I should comment on that as well. This came about from a simple request from Councillor McCarthy just to eliminate the trip points where people choose to cross near the library, and for that to now develop into a full-on pedestrian crossing further up Dart Street at potentially up to $90,000. I think that's just, I agree with Councillor McCarthy, it's just way over the top and unnecessary. I don't believe there is any chance a new pedestrian crossing would get approved, none whatsoever. It would be so far short of the standards for the traffic and the pedestrian numbers you need for a new pedestrian crossing. It's just not going to happen. And even if it did happen, most people are going to continue to cross at the intersection. They're not going to cross over Fleming Street after the crossing and come back. They're just not going to do it.
Yep. Not that many people crossing the road.
So I'd certainly think we should be knocking the idea of a new pedestrian crossing on the head. I do support Councillor McCarthy at least trying to eliminate the trip points, but that's not the main issue. The main issue is I think we should be sticking with what was previously decided and finding a way to go ahead with the upgrading of Dart and Dudley Street.
Through the chair, would that be including this corner? I know that we've spoken about it a fair few times, the library, where Councillor McCarthy...
Yeah, and there's a couple of trip points because there's a little gap.
So we're working on fixing them?
No.
Not in this.
Not under this.
But that's what...
But it was resolved at a couple of meetings ago to do that.
To get a report.
To get a report.
And that's what this report is.
This is report. So the council asked staff to go and have a look at how that could be undertaken. Staff have come back and said, well, if you're going to go down this path, they have to look at all the things, that it's included safety and what you need to do when you are trying to create these things, and that's what the report has brought back. If council resolve not to do that, then it's up to council to consider. What staff are saying is that they've had a look at it, and if you do just this, you are promoting an unsafe environment to do that. Right? So they've come up with a solution that would otherwise rectify that. If it is over the top, then that's final, and that's for council to consider. But council staff have just brought back the report on what was asked to do, and they've tried to also find a way within existing frameworks to fund it.
Can I speak to that? Just in relation to the upgraded Dudley Dart Street intersection, I agree with that. I agree with Councillor McCarthy's note that he's given to us. We asked for a report to come back, and the reason that that I supported resolution for the report because I supported Councillor McCarthy's original motion to remove that gutter and continue in a straight line, because we spent the money putting a light there and people walk straight across. We do not need to diverge up or down from that section and cross up towards the intersection further. So I completely understand where Councillor Tucker's coming from, and I support number 9 of that. Thank you.
Shall I go on to the next one?
Yes. Oh, any other comments? Yes.
Yeah, through the chair, with the pedestrian proposal crossing in between 2 intersections, I believe it's a risk. We are inviting risk.
I agree.
And pedestrians being exposed to risk.
But it is not a pedestrian crossing. Sorry.
Further to that, there is a power pole in the middle of the proposed path. There's a drainage pit in the middle of it. There's a blister and there's a car park. And then once you put that path in through all those obstacles, which can be done if we remove those obstacles, maybe not the power pole, maybe we concrete around it to accommodate the path, then you invite people to cross in between 2 intersections. And the ending of this footpath doesn't align with the opposite footpath ending. So if council is of the opinion that the pedestrian crossing is over the top, we may want to encourage pedestrians to cross elsewhere without a crossing, which is removing that T-piece on the opposite end extending the footpath past the motel and still encourage crossing near Oberon Engineering between those trees without having a pedestrian crossing.
No.
You know, you could encourage that. I would would recommend against encouraging pedestrians to cross where it has been proposed. I believe that's risky, inviting risk. It's quite, the road is very wide there too, so especially if you're not a, you know, young, fitter pedestrian, it will take you a little bit to get across, and there's lots of areas to watch out for waste at that location. I've done it before. It was raised with me before that connectivity between north and south of Dartford is an issue. So I've looked at that. I've walked to the pool and come back, and so yes, it is an issue. There is no connectivity currently given. So proposing a pedestrian crossing where it's proposed was an attempt to resolve that in line with the notice of motion from McCarthy a couple of months back. However, if Council believes an additional pedestrian crossing in Dartford, we already have two further east, is an issue. Council may want to seem to encourage pedestrians to cross somewhere else without a crossing, like that location that's proposed, but maybe without a crossing.
But we put a light there.
And I certainly acknowledge all of those points. I agree it's not an ideal location to cross, and we have the same with other dog-led crossroads as well. It can make it very difficult to decide where to cross, and well, I'll go 50 metres down so I can cross straight across and then come back here. We have the same down here, we have the same up there, and other locations as well. So they are genuine concerns, I agree with that. I think Councillor McCarthy's point, and I would agree that that is where people choose to cross, because they've walked down from where the bus stop is down past the library, and if they're going to the motel or across to the rec ground or the pool, it's just where they cross. And it was just to try to eliminate those hazards at the point where they are crossing without actually, you know, installing a pedestrian crossing or doing anything further than that to actually encourage people to cross. That was the point. I know time's getting on. If I can move on to Richards Park drainage, this perhaps is going to be the tricky one. Or, just going back to the history of this, that section of the park is often a mess. It is unusable. It's often unmaintainable because it just gets so wet and doesn't dry out. The flow often exceeds the pipe capacity as it goes underneath that section of the park. You might recall, Mr Mayor, we had a report a few years ago from the previous director saying the way to fix that would be to increase the pipe size, and the estimate was $180,000, which we didn't have. And the alternative to pull the pipes out and restore an open watercourse was $80,000, and that's where that figure has come from. We tend to get so risk averse that we engineer away all the most interesting places for kids to play. I've seen it down in the next park, down in Robinson Park. In the years I've lived there, once in 20-something years, I've seen people using the grass area of that park. Multiple times I've seen kids playing down in the creek. It is the only interesting part to play just about in the town. And we have the same in Richards Park. That the idea was to create in Richards Park something similar to what we already have in Robinson Park. Open watercourse, rocks to prevent scouring. They'll move around a bit in the first few times that the water flows down, but eventually they settle. That's what happened in Robinson Park. And because it's lower than the surrounding park, water can drain. Have some planting along the sides of the watercourse, and I think that is a better solution than either replacing the pipes, and I think it's a better solution than leaving it in such a mess as it often gets at the moment. I don't understand why we would need to do any design. I think we've effectively already got the design, because the grade of the pipes designs the invert of the new watercourse. You pull the pipes out, put rocks in, and you've already got the slope all the way down the watercourse. So I have suggested increasing that to 100,000. Again, I cannot see how we're going to spend that amount of money for what I've got in mind. I can't see it, but I've boosted it up anyway. I would have thought half that would be plenty.
Right.
Can I speak
Can I
to that?
I'll ask the director to speak on that first.
Through the chair, again, it would put us in the situation if funds are allocated and we have a design and then we see quotations on the design that the funds may be insufficient, which puts us in another spot of not being able to execute it. That's my concern with that approach. I wouldn't allocate funds until we have a design and then have cost estimates for that design.
Design.
Can I speak to that?
Removing the pipes.
Yeah, potentially, well, I guess the pipe wouldn't need to be removed, it could be blocked off because it's underground anyway. That would be the cheaper solution versus ripping it out. And then reinstalling the natural creek bed with rocks, wherever that might be. It's a bit difficult due to the vegetation to see where it actually goes. And if we had a site visit, I believe you were part of it, so we met on site and looked at that. That's the comment I have on that item.
Yes, Councillor.
Yeah, I'd like to support that. I recall when our past technical services director had brought a report back and had discussed in depth how we were going to go about that should we wish to take the pipes out and revert it back to a natural watercourse, and that was the most cost affordable way to do it. There's no design. We don't need to go out and do a parks and gardens design. Rip the pipes out and let nature take its course, and nature will then redirect the design. We don't have to, as people, just let nature take its course. Take the pipes out, allocate the money, and take it back to how it used to be. And I support that fully.
What's the erosion risk without doing it?
Through the chair, I don't think we have anyone experienced within our staff to assess that or not do that. That's why we get someone to do it for us.
So
to be able to build it based on
from an erosion point of view, etc., there'd have to be a design.
I'm not sure what's underneath it. Currently, it's all grass and covered in vegetation. I'm not sure what's under it.
It's a creek.
And, yeah. What the consistency of that is and what it would change if we blocked off that pipe. I really can't comment. I don't have the expertise, sorry.
Councillor.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I go back to my earlier point. I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert at anything, but I certainly have no expertise in this in all these engineering matters that Councillor Tucker's raising. We've got a very limited budget of 600. We seem to be going around in circles, and I think I'd like to defer this discussion to a later meeting because I'm really very disappointed, I guess would be the word, that we've got our director here and all her staff, and we seem to be giving her advice on how to do things, and I don't think that's correct. I think we as a council, we need to first and foremost look at our financial position, look at those capital items in town that need maintenance, because we've got a limited budget. I'd like to defer this motion to a later date. Thank you.
We're in committee of a whole at the minute. What Councillor Tucker's put forward is what we previously resolved to do with the TI fund. So what Councillor Tucker's put forward isn't anything new.
Point of order, I disagree. We are in a committee of the whole.
Exactly, so don't throw point of order at me.
Councillors, the TI allocate I don't believe we have resolved to remove the pipes, the reshaping of the waterway, have we, Councillor?
Yes, we did.
When was that?
Same time.
Year before last.
We had it, it's
Year
about
before
close
last.
to 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Councillor Leverous was here that day as an observer.
We did the inspection.
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought we allocated 80,000 to Richards Park drainage, specifically for the removal of the pipes. Is that right?
Well, that 80,000 was based on advice from the previous director about removing the pipes and restoring a natural waterway.
I can review
drainage.
It was to look at them. I don't think any of them.
It may not have been specified in the resolution of the day, but that's where it came from.
24.
Oh, councillor Hayden, what's it say? You said you knew and you were quoting the resolution. Tell me what it says.
Mr Mayor, I wasn't quoting you, I was thinking when it was, because I was remembering it was before the election, so it was May or June of 24.
No, can I suggest, I mean, the alternative for all of this is to put this with the IPNR on public exhibition for councillors and the public to come back and have a look at some sort of something. But again, as has been said, how can we be certain that any of these allocations in your motion are actually going to be the appropriate sums of money that are required for any of these projects?
Yeah, and that's where it's annoying, because they are based on advice we've previously been given, and then to now find myself being told that it's not enough is just really annoying.
Can I
Yes,
just
General
state
Manager.
that is not the case, because often council staff get told, well, let's put money at this point. That's not, council staff aren't the ones making all these allocations. But can I just, to put some context into it, this money is already allocated and it sits in a reserve. And if we are currently at a point where there's still some negotiation around this, could we suggest that at least let's have a look at the timing and just put the timing out to an appropriate time and come back and have a deep dive into the TI process? Because, okay, you might disagree, councillor. What I'm trying to do is get an understanding from council that council staff have come back noting that they're a back to basics type scenario that's upon us. We're trying to get works undertaken and completed. We all understand that the TI Legacy Fund is the thing that we're trying to put to bed, and I am absolutely supportive of trying to put it to bed. But there is certainly some differences in points of view around the table. If nothing else, the money has been secured, like the money's not going anywhere. And if the time allocation was to give us a little bit of time to re-look at that, you could place it on exhibition and seek the views of the community, because the community might come up and say, we want something else.
But then it's okay to say that, but this is something that's been ongoing for now, we're going to hit into the 3rd year, where we make a resolution, we make our decision as to where we're going to be allocating the funding, and then staff go along and go, oh no, let's change that and we'll throw in a new project into it. And this is the thing that becomes frustrating for councillors. We've already made these decisions, they're not being delivered. So it's the delivery that is the problem, not the decision making. So if Councillor Tucker has put this motion forward that I've seconded, we should just get on, have a look at it and vote on it. And then if someone has an amendment down the track, then put your amendment forward, because this is something that's ongoing, and we were time limited as to when we had to get this TI fund all sorted and finished with.
Through the chair, you put your own time limit on it. That's the first thing. The second thing, you're in the committee of the whole.
Yeah.
And we're dealing with
that's
these things.
what
So
I'm
I have
saying.
the
I
same
just am
opportunity to
responding
make
to what
comments
you
as everyone else does.
Mr Mayor, through you, I'd like to thank our General Manager for his wisdom there. I mean, there was a comment that was just recently made about, was it infuriating? What was the comment? That it was, that this process, well, I tell you, the process is infuriating because of the way we've handled it here, and I'd like to thank the General Manager and move forward with his suggestion. Thank you.
Shall I move on to the next one?
Yes, please.
Councillor Graham.
Sorry.
I've got a question for Councillor Tucker here.
Okay.
So, does it add up to the 600,000, or any changes? Where is it?
My proposed allocations add up to just under 600,000, and so we've been told the currently available MTI is 632, so there's a spare of 32,000 for any bits and pieces that end up going in.
I am like Councillor O'Connor. I think the General Manager's suggestion is a very good one, in that we look at the extension of time and then ask for submissions. Yeah.
So what do we...
So through, you're in committee of the whole, so you're having a conversation
Yeah,
about
I
what
know.
that
Looking at number 5.
Why,
You
why
have-
would
you have-
I would have thought that in some ways, because we don't have firm quotes for a number of these areas, or we don't know if the allocations are sufficient, that what we should do is maybe put indicative amounts and allocations, and if that amount gets,
So through the chair, that's exactly what Councillor Tucker has done.
They are intended as indicative because I don't have access to firm quotes. I just had to make some guesses. Where it's maintaining the existing allocations, I've done that. But for number...
what I'm worried about is if these allocations are not sufficient.
Yeah, well, there's a spare 32,000, and if they're not sufficient, then it would have to come back to us. But it was all I could do in putting this motion together is make some guesses based on the best information available to me. I haven't seen formal quotes.
And in
to
keeping
staff,
with
and to
previous
staff,
resolutions as well.
the staff has tried to provide a pretty robust type of consideration when they do it, noting that we're trying to get back to basics and we know that money doesn't grow on trees. Now in saying that...
Sorry, Councillor Hayden, what was that?
I said the staff's recommendation up there was completely new, some of it. So we're talking about past resolutions and past decisions that we made as a council, going over the last, we could say, 4 years almost. We need to get this stuff
No, that's not
delivered.
correct, General Manager.
Through the chair, I think that's a bit unfair when the first 7 recommendations from Councillor Tucker's resolution supported the very thing that staff's recommended. What staff are trying to put together is where they were unsure and when there was unquotes, how do we best fit that? Now, I take the point about town improvement.
Councillor Hayden, let the General Manager speak.
I thought we were in
And
committee of
and
the whole.
I
Let the
acknowledge
General
those
Manager
things
speak.
he said.
And it was why I listed each project under a separate number, so that if we want to, we can approve some of them, change others, or knock others out, or add something new in, but at least it gives us, it makes it fairly easy for those projects that everyone's agreed on, we can approve them today.
Mr Mayor, look, I don't disagree with throwing some projects in the air, but we can't operate on vapour, we can't operate on guesses. We you know, what are we doing? You know, this is the first time I've been to a council meeting where 11 proposals being put together, cobbled together with a few guesses, and look, she'll be right, and I've left 32,000, what, a couple of percent?
That's not true.
What is it then?
They've already been decided
When?
on.
A couple of years ago.
Several years ago.
Yes, yeah, even worse, several years ago.
But we've got to finalise recommendations and resolutions that we've decided on, Frank.
It's just
You don't understand.
unbelievable. Oh, thank you, Councillor.
Well, clearly,
Unbelievable.
clearly.
Through the chair, if I may, when this TI legacy fund was allocated, I believe it was with the previous council
Yes,
as well,
it was.
so you probably wouldn't be across that
Correct.
particular discussion
Exactly,
in 24-25. Something I wanted to say on the footpath, so if council is against a new pedestrian crossing, the table that I've listed on page 45 highlights the cost. So if it's just the removal of the current ending in Fleming Street extension of current past the Malta Inn and 2 new pram ramps, that amounts to 30 grand. So if council was supportive, the allocation for Dudley could be reallocated to do this. But also, I believe at the time in 24-25, we over-allocated the available TI fund by $74,000. So whatever is spare isn't actually spare, it just goes back in the reserve where it was taken from in lieu of TI. That was my recollection of it. So, you know, I have said we had $36,000 left over in the lighting from the footpaths. There was 50 allocated, we only used just under 14. However, my understanding at the time was that if money was left over, it should go back to the reserve that we had over-allocated TI from, because we over-allocated by about 74,000 from memory at the time.
And the figures I've put in that motion take account of that over-allocation as well. It eliminates the over-allocation and becomes an under-allocation by $32,000.
And that's acknowledged.
might just mention number 11.
Yes.
I don't know where we're going to go with this debate, but I just want to explain number 11. The allocation up until now has been 5,000. That was based on the fact that the design for Dart and Dudley cost 3,000. And so I allowed a bit more, even though it's a very, very similar design. I allowed 5,000. I've now put that up to 15 based on the information in this report. Again, I can't see where that 15,000 would be spent. And I would have thought that we must have someone on staff who could just go and do such a small, simple design and do it in-house, but I might be wrong. But anyway, I do think that's an important one to do in support of our grant applications. It was the last month or the month before there was discussion about putting in an application for improvement of connectivity down to the Tourist Information Centre, and that as part of that application we used the fact that Council was proceeding with trying to improve that intersection. Now if we step away from that and don't do it, we can no longer say, well, you know, we're committed to improving disabled access and we're committed to improving traffic safety, because we've thrown it out the window. So I do think we should get the design done to be grant ready. It is not the construction, it's just the design, in the hope that it will support grant applications. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Through the chair, comment on this specific one.
Yes.
I believe you're also developing a new active transport strategy, which would take into account our key destinations like the Common. And I acknowledge, similar to the Dart Fleming Street pedestrian connectivity, there's limited connectivity currently from the main street to the Common, which is our main park. So to improve that would be great. Actually, we've looked at that intersection. Going back to the design, we had a previous contractor casually on staff who was a design engineer, so he actually redesigned the Dart-Dudley intersection. We don't have the luxury to have someone on staff that can do that normally. So we'd need to put it out to a contractor to do the design according to standards and on the proper program, so we can see quotes on it. Just what I wanted to comment on that one in Ross Street, Queen Street, the current solution that has that rock wall approach and then that moon-shaped staircase down to the intersection is something, when we look at redesigning it, that would need to be removed from a safety point of view, because it encourages crossing diagonally across the intersection, which is the longest way and not supported. So I've seen solutions at different councils where they do away with that and only encourage crossing 90 degrees, so that there's also rocks falling out of that rock wall currently. It's probably also not compliant with other safety requirements, as in it's quite high. Probably should have the handrail. Again, something I've seen at other councils. So the design in this case is probably not so much the issue compared to the construction, according to the design once it progresses. But having a design and seeking grant application is probably a good outcome, considering it is a connectivity shortfall for us currently.
Thank you, and I agree with all of that. And the other point I mentioned when I sent you an email explaining that the idea behind that was to make it possible for disabled, because they can't currently get down those curved steps, but to have a ramp that goes part way down and doubles back to the intersection and built at a slope that wheelchairs can manage. So
that's another issue actually,
yeah,
with that specific one,
right.
that even if you wanted to get a slope over that length, you would need to redo the whole side of that. Yeah, that's another issue, the accessibility and connectivity, yeah.
All right.
Anyone else want to speak on 11? Right, go to 2, major 2, not proceed with proposed K&G projects in Edith Road near Cantwell Lane.
And that's in accordance with what the report suggests, and I agree with that. I've always had a bit of a problem with that project being top of the list in curb and gutter anyway. Clearly we're not going to have the money to get into much more curb and gutter for a long time. We had quite a long list of projects we would like to do. Without the TI fund, they're just not going to happen, and I'm not going to lose any sleep over that particular project not going ahead.
Any other discussion on that matter? No, your major three? Oh, I just note that Councillor Lee has had to leave the chambers as he is unwell for health reasons. Okay, we go to major three, thank you. Oh, sorry, there's a question from the director.
So in the table on page 46 of the business papers, that curb and gutter 7-year program TI allocation of 155 is given in there.
Yeah.
However, that included a investigation on Dudley, which also we investigated and believe that there's no benefit from that. Is that included in your part 2?
Well, it wasn't, because I don't think we've ever allocated any money to go ahead with any of those curb and gutter projects apart from that Edith Road.
Sorry, just for that, so the resolution back in June 2024 included that, the 155 was for...
No, well, it was intended, and if we need to change the wording, it was intended to not go ahead with any further curb and gutter projects.
Okay.
So would you want to change the wording now?
Not proceed with further proposed curb and gutter projects.
Yeah, happy with that.
You right with that, Hannah?
And number 3 was simply meant to replace number 5 in the original recommendations, where it said to have the legacy TI funds spent by the end of 26-27. And I just said, well, let's try and get these things done by the end of 26, so we've still got the other 6 months, the second 6 months of that year, to have a look at if there is any money left over.
To make it clear, you're trying to say, aim to complete the above projects by the end of calendar year
2026. That was the intention. Yes.
Can't you just put December?
Just put December 2026.
December 26.
31st December.
Yep.
So, see how we go.
But we're noting we are in committee of the whole.
And as I said, Mr. Mayor, I'm open to changes to the list or the amounts, or anyone wants to.
I mean, my view is whatever this resolution ends up in this detailed form, I think it needs to go on public exhibition for a period so that councillors and the public have a chance to look at this in greater detail.
Although I'm sure we did that 2 years ago.
Yep.
Yes, but we've got reallocations.
Perhaps add part 4. No, I don't think it needs it. But
I just felt a bit...
No, Councillor Lee is back in the room.
Yeah, I just felt a bit faint, that's all.
I certainly hope it wasn't the expenditure of this money that caused you to go faint.
It's probably change.
Are there any other views from councillors? As we're in committee of the whole.
happy to move this back.
I suppose my question is to you, Councillor Tucker, in relation to the, whilst I note the waterway through, reshaping the waterway through Richards Park, my concern in relation to that one is, I suppose, noting the comments by the Technical Services Director, we don't know whether this requires removal of the pipes, blocking of the pipes, how it's going to be achieved, what you want to achieve, and also noting our restraint on funds, whether this is the best allocation of funds. I note that it's desirable, but again, are there projects that should have priority over that?
And that's exactly what the whole debate is about. What are the highest priority? I'm happy to support that particular project, obviously. as I always have, ever since it was first discussed, even longer than 2 years ago, when we first got that estimate of 180,000 to replace the pipes. Yes, to my mind, it would certainly involve removing the pipes, not blocking them off and leaving them there and trying to build a waterway over the top. That would create all sorts of problems at the upstream end where it was blocked off, and it would also limit the drainage from the surrounding soil, which is part of the purpose of it, to get water into the waterway so it can flow away. It's a simple matter, in my view, to bring in an excavator, cut the soil off the top, lift the pipes out, reuse them on some other project where we're trying to save money, shape the soil into a bit of a V, throw in 15, 20 loads of rocks and roughly shape them, and you're done. That's all there is to it.
I note your comments, Councillor Tugger. Having personally had considerable experience with doing anything in a waterway lately without getting umpteen approvals in place, I am concerned that, you know, we may not even get the approvals up by the end of the year, let alone the end of 2027. And if fisheries gets involved, it'll add another degree of difficulty that will cause major implications. I can only speak from my personal experience and the experience council has had in relation to whether it's Baldridge Road culverts or anything. Once you touch something that has anything to do with the waterway, it then becomes a nightmare.
And I should have mentioned that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, because it is something that crossed my mind that I was going to mention. I don't think this needs approval because I don't think it's a
second grade order stream.
Yeah, well, I don't think so, but it would need to be checked.
Through the chair, a couple of comments on that one. We currently wanted to exercise our scour valves. I've advised my staff not to do that, at least not two of them, because they go straight into creeks. And each time you discharge water into the creek, it stirs up sediment and things like that. And there's also, even though we might not want to hear it, there's also chemicals in the water that firstly we consume, chlorine, but they may not be nice for the environment, so you should dechlorinate. And there's the scouring obviously encourages the stirring up of sediment that has manganese in it, and I'm not sure what manganese does. So there was just a sideline. We didn't do that for that purpose. If we start ripping pipes out in the water, I'm not sure what the impact is on that with regard to EPA concerns. One concern I had on the bridge end of that pipe, that there is sewer mains also going, there's lots of rocks, so removing a pipe in that vicinity is also a risky enterprise from my perspective.
I would have just thought we were taking it back to its original form, pre-putting the pipes in.
Doesn't matter.
I'm just saying that's just my comment on it.
Trying to take something back to the original form, even original form, it means you have to get all these approvals.
Oh no, I understand that, but it is actually listed as a review net.
Yes.
And if it turns out approvals are needed, I'll agree and I'll totally withdraw it. But I don't think fisheries approval will be needed for that, but I may be wrong.
All right, so I suppose the question is, noting that point, noting we don't know in respect to that specific issue, how do we frame that? And also, I just wanted to clarify from the director in relation to the rock wall issue, how much do we currently think the existing, and you did note that there were some rock walls that needed maintenance, existing walls, how much do you think we would need to maintain those existing walls? I note Councillor Tucker's comment that he thinks the TI fund should be used for capital but not maintenance, but I'm just wanting an understanding from a figure point of view as to any idea as to what it would cost to maintain the current walls that are suffering.
Through the chair, we have about 40 walls of those.
40.
We've recently done a curb and gutter acid stock take, and most of those do have curb and gutter, so we pick them up as part of that. I can't give you a figure, but dividing 50,000 by 40 gives you an idea of how much it would be on average per wall, depending on what's required. So the one on Ross Street, for example, for my understanding, would require a handrail on the top. There's a little staircase that has a handrail, the wall itself doesn't. It's very close to footpaths. It's a safety concern. That wouldn't even be maintenance, that would be improving current, and that would cost a considered amount of the 50 grand. So I can't tell you per wall, I can only tell you, and we would have a similar approach, we'd use it until it's used up.
So, Councillor Tucker, in respect to your motion, would you consider the installation of a handrail on the top of that wall to be maintenance of a capital nature, which would fall within your point here?
I would see that as capital, and if there are locations like that need that sort of upgrading work, because it's creating something that isn't currently there, I would have no problem with that.
How many do we have? Rocks coming out, etc.
There's at least how many blocks coming out, I'm not sure.
Well, not how many, but how many walls?
I've recently seen it at one in Oberon Street, the one that's got like a staggered one on the left side, right side going out of Oberon, like a double wall. That's got a fence on the top of the first one, and the bottom one has got rocks falling out. That's just one I've noticed. I haven't been going around and looking at all of them. But we know we've got a staff that's got relevant skills on board. They know there's maintenance requirements with the walls with regard to grouting, draining, replacing of some rocks. But even if you replace the rocks, then the look is likely to be different as well. So yeah, I can't give you a detailed figure on that or number on how many are damaged. A handrail requirement, I know of the one in Ross Street. I'm not even sure what to do with the double wall in Oberon Street, because it's a very small ledge, and maintaining currently there's no vegetation in it. Maintaining that would be tricky. It's very hard to do it from the road because you only got the shoulder. To do it from the top, you can't do it either. You'd need to balance on it. You wouldn't want to ruin the looks by putting something there, so that's a tricky one.
Yes, Councillor.
I was just going back to a question you asked a couple of minutes ago about number 10, Richards Park. I'd be happy if you wanted to add on to the end of that, where it says a revised allocation of $100,000, subject to checking whether fisheries permits are required.
Or approvals generally.
Yeah, or whether any approvals are required.
Work approvals.
So we just put investigate.
Investigate work
Investigate.
permit, that's all it is.
The removal.
Pending.
Subject to checking whether.
Pending approval.
Yeah, yeah, that's okay. We know what it means.
Yeah. Pending.
Well, shouldn't it be pending?
Subject to our.
Pending approvals, that's all we need to really put.
Well, it's not pending, it is subject to ascertaining what approval.
Subject to ascertaining any approvals required, or whether any.
Whether and the time frame for any approvals, because it could be the time frame.
What approvals?
So can I?
Yes.
Just in relation to the timing, we bring back every 3 months where TI has been spent. We don't propose not to do that. So the aim to complete it, we've been able to complete it by the end of 25-26, and we're just saying that given that all the things that are highlighted in the report, we ask for that additional 12 months to complete the work. Now, if I just to help inform the direction, like we don't propose to change that anytime soon. So if that means that the timing, I just don't know whether point 3 says, are you supporting to the end of financial year 26-27 to have them completed?
No, just 31st of December.
Go back to recommendation number 5 if you like. It's just trying to make the point that we're keen to get the work done, but with a bit of leeway for any unexpended funds. That was the idea.
And all I was getting at is that we do this every 3 months and we don't propose to change that.
I would be suggesting it. I suggested that, as I said, indicated before, do we have point 4 that says it goes on, anything goes on public exhibition for a period?
There's nothing substantial in that though. There's nothing substantial that we haven't
Only that
already
you're not
agreed to,
undertaking
please.
the curb and gutter projects.
Sorry?
Only that you're not undertaking the curb
Well,
and gutter
that's right,
projects.
but I mean, even if we did the curb and gutter projects, the general public, wherever we do curb and gutter projects like what happened down in Dart Street, we might say we do an allocation, but the homeowner still has to contribute. So it still hits their pocket, so they'd be probably happy.
Well, we've said to people previously that we are doing the curb and gutter projects, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
And we now change that.
Good timing.
Mr Mayor, I think we need to, given that that was the previous way we approached it.
So I'd be putting it on public exhibition, but this be put on public exhibition for
Through the IPNR
yes,
process.
through the IPNR process with comment back.
And replace my number 3 with the original number 5.
Okay. And then put number 4, add a number 4 that says, to go on public exhibition with the IPNR then. Just add that number 4.
Because I think
That's it?
gives
Yep,
some
done.
timing.
Yep. Place this on public exhibition,
Right.
28 days with the IPNR.
So you can.
So I think when we put
Number
this
4.
out on public exhibition, we'll have to have quite a bit of detail behind it, because no one will.
Thank you, Hannah.
Unfortunately.
Did you need me to repeat that? No?
Please.
Place the above on public exhibition, 28
As
days.
part of the
Part
IPNR
of the
process.
Part of the IPNR process as well, so.
Can I just say, place the reallocation of TI funding on public exhibition?
Yeah.
Just carry out to make a substantial agreement contract.
No. It's obviously, I'm seeing that going, this is why I'm not a general manager anymore.
Right. You're happy with that? And then we'll move back into,
You don't have to put the time period, but just in as part of IPNR exhibition processes.
right, we're in committee of the whole. Can someone move us back? Councillor Hayden, Councillor Graham, all in favour? Thank you. So I put the motion as per what's on the screen. Do you wish me to read it?
No.
I'll put the motion, all in favour? Leveris, Hayden, Graham, Tucker, against Lee, and O'Connor. Thank you.
How are you voting?
I vote in favour.
I didn't hear that. Sorry.
Okay. Go to 4.4.
Page number? Sorry, I'm lost. 49.
Section 356 Donation Program Evaluation. The recommendation is the Council 1 endorses the Section 356 Financial Assistance Panel's funding recommendations for the 2026-27 financial year as outlined in the attached report. 2. Notes the total amount of funding recommended is $39,125. 3. Places the proposed funding allocations on public exhibition for a period of 28 days in accordance with Section 356(2) of the Local Government Act 1993. 4. Notify all applicants of the outcome of and arrange for funding agreements and acquittal reporting following the completion of public exhibition period in accordance with the policy. I'll put
Different
the motion.
motions.
I put it. Seconder?
How can...
I've put the motion.
Could I ask a question,
Yeah.
please? How can we allocate the total amount of funding recommended when we haven't made the determinations as yet on the individual funds, because there may be changes? So
Will we have a committee?
there was a panel that had put forward their suggestion, but the council still has to have theirs.
Yeah, and if
The
that
panel in
changes, then that
accordance
figure
with
will
the-
change.
Yeah, that's correct.
That's why I didn't want to put the figure there in that motion.
So who moved it?
I moved it, you second it.
Yes, thanks.
Okay, I move it. We set the panel up by a resolution. They've come up with their recommendations. We note the financial constraints with which council was placed. There has been a reduction from the previous year, and it seems appropriate to me. And the panel consisted, I believe, of councillors Leveris and O'Connor. Is that correct? Yeah.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I was a member of the panel, as was Councillor Leveris and our Director. At this point, I'd like to firstly thank the Director of Finance and his team, particularly Victoria Birley. This donation program, it's a very difficult job. We've got limited financial resources and the community organisations have legitimate needs and wants. Overall, I think we came to a very transparent and balanced criteria, encouraging youth activities, supporting low socio-economic applicants. All councils struggle with this program. Some are a little bit luckier than others. If you look at ones that are close by, Upper Lachlan, a larger council than ours, but have a similar donation program, and Bathurst, a much larger council which has a significantly smaller donation program. I really do appreciate the time and effort our Director put in, and particularly with this report. It pretty well summarises everything. I do note on page 50, I would have had the 25-26 allocation was 55,000, not 100,000. So we've gone from 100 to 55 to something less. We've been very responsible. We've tried to allocate the funds as best we can across those priorities. And I know there's people that would think, you know, maybe it should have gone elsewhere. But I do make the point that this is under a policy that the council adopted. And in my mind, under that policy, what we should be doing is simply and purely voting on this section donation evaluation. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Lang.
Yes, I don't agree with having the amount in the motion as you have put it of 39,125. Yes, there was a panel that went through and gave their review first up, but at the end of the day, it's for all of the council to make the decision on the funding allocation going forward. It could change, it could become less, or it could become slightly more. I did want to mention in here how there seems to be a difference between two particular organisations. We've got the Black Springs.
A point of order, Mr Mayor. I just want to make a point of order.
On what? What's your point of order?
The
point of order is that we have a policy and we need to attend and follow the policy, and we need to refer to the policy which was council endorsed itself. Under this policy there's a structured assessment process with evaluation panel, Tony, myself and the Director, and those allocations are placed. Now at this point in time I'd like our Director just to give us some more information on that policy so we can understand how we need to follow that, if you wouldn't mind.
Mr Mayor, can we have the point of order dealt with, please?
Yeah, I don't understand what
the point of order is that we're moving away from what our previous policy was.
That's not a point of order. That's not a point of order.
Council is allowed to ask questions about it. We may we're not on a couple of particular items. We're going through the whole thing.
Mr Mayor, to simplify, if we put that funding for exhibition against those two words, it satisfies both parties.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the council notes to tell them out funding recommended is that. It's not saying it's
not endorsing it.
I just would like to continue asking my questions in relation to the report, in relation to the funding allocations. Thanks, if I may, Mr Mayor.
I guess why I raised the point of order is in the last year we had to endure going through each and every one of these.
No, we're not intending to do that.
Okay, good.
I have a question on it.
Good.
On
Thank
one.
you. Thank you.
I'm assuming, councillor Hayden, you said 4?
There's a couple only.
Right.
And it's the significant difference between what's being said in the report, and it's around 2 associations. So you've got Black Springs Community Association yearly expense, including insurance, and the evaluation comment was less alignment with section 356 objectives, so we're given 0, less objectives, focus on operational needs rather than community initiatives. And then when we go to the O'Connell community group, I'll wait till you've finished discussing and then I'll...
Yeah, this won't impeach on your declarations, will it? Of pecuniary?
No, this isn't anything to do with my declaration. This is to do with the Black Springs Community Association requesting funding to go towards insurance, etc.
Yeah.
And the reason given that they got nothing, but then the O'Connell community group asked for money for annual insurance premiums, and the evaluation comments was continued support for community organisations that benefit the village. So they're two different, they're exactly the same thing, two different...
All right, let's leave it because so can I ask
contradicting.
the director to comment on that?
Through the chair, as Councillor Hayden has confirmed that those applications were received from a variety of groups for varying ongoing costs, insurance, all those types of things. While the feedback does indicate that the Black Springs had submitted an application for ongoing, the evaluation process encompasses much more than that. It's looking at what existing MOUs are in place, what council does in those varying village areas. So that was taken in its entirety in the evaluation process. So there's a lot of discussion around the different village areas, the events they have, the different hall structures that we have in those village areas. So that was definitely taken into account, and that was the decision that the panel made. But it was very cognizant of all of the other support the council gives in those areas over a long period of time. So that's
Continue?
Next question, yes.
So the reason why I brought this up is specifically there was 2 applications from Black Springs, 2 applications from O'Connell. 1 application from Black Springs got approved, 2 applications in here from O'Connell. So 1 is the insurance premium that Black Springs couldn't get but O'Connell can, and the O'Connell Valley Community Group is getting $1,000 for putting goalposts in the recreation ground, and I note that Black Springs is getting an allocation that goes towards their 50th anniversary of $1,000. So we're then seeing that distribution between the 2 villages significantly different. One can't get their insurance or get any portion towards it. One does. One gets 1,000, the other gets 1,000. So this is where I find it is significantly
the director has responded, I believe.
I don't believe that it covers things efficiently. No, I don't.
Well, put a submission in. I'm suggesting that in relation to 2,
that's all right.
that it goes...
I was just wanting to raise that issue, Mr Mayor.
Right, what's your next one?
There was... Sorry, I've got to scroll down because... There was Oberon Matters website contribution. There was no allocation given at all to Oberon Matters. Oberon Matters goes around to every single event in this community. They advertise every event. They sit through every single council meeting that we have, every ordinary meeting, and they report. They report on council matters, they report on community matters, and they keep the community informed via that online media. And I would have thought an allocation of at least $500 could have been applicable considering the amount of news they put out in the community.
The panel looked at it and obviously determined that on the application...
But that's the panel. As councillors, we can make a determination on that. And I think we should allocate it some funding.
Yeah, through the chair, it's a similar comment you made, Mr Mayor. There's a lot of grade applications that the panel had to deal with through that time. The policy clearly outlines the 3 guiding objectives of how council evaluates these. It's about inclusivity, it's building participation. There's a variety of things that we assess, that the panel assessed that recommendation of, and while this organisation is known to council, there was the panel's recommendation was there was other areas that were more appropriate in accordance with the evaluation framework, and that was the recommendation they made.
Well, I just moved that. I'm still on my questions.
Yeah, but if I can make a comment, just to give Councillor Hayden.
I don't need your.
I'm asking him for a comment. Thank you, Councillor Hayden.
Just to give Councillor Hayden a little bit of insight, and this probably is the one that for me was most difficult. There's an organisation, Edith Hall Committee, I think it was. Is that correct? Is that how? They're a magnificent organisation, a community. They've self-funded all the improvements, and they came to us with a request for funding. Because we're following the same determinants, it was decided not to provide any funding, but Matt was going to see, there was another alternative. But it was very, very difficult. I mean, if any organisation, if any community organisation deserved funds, given what they've done in the past, it was the Edith Hall Committee. So it's a difficult job. Thank you.
So, Mr Mayor, if we can get back into our arrangement under the Model Code of Meeting Practice, and I was actually speaking and I said I had my issues I wish to raise. I don't want to be further interrupted by other.
Well, you said you had 2 issues. You've already raised 2 issues.
No, I said I had that one and another 2 is what I said. And I am saying, as a councillor, we don't need to have these decisions removed from the whole of council. The idea of the panel was to go through what they thought put forward and for the rest of the councillors to make their decision on this. So, you know, as a council, we're the governing body as a whole, and we get to put forward what we think needs to be different.
All right, you're putting a motion up. Are you putting an amendment?
I think that there should be $500 go towards Oberon matters, and I also think we should assist the Oberon Rotary. I remember it was 2023 going into 2024 when the council supported Oberon Rotary to do some upgrades to their signage in the LGA because their signage had become faded, but yet they're trying to rejuvenate their signs and council can't even support Rotary.
So how do you you're making these comments, Councillor Hayden, but when you made your declaration at the beginning of this meeting, you said for this matter you would be removing yourself from the council.
For the specific item of the Burriga Ag Bureau.
No, you didn't. You said for item 4.4.
No, that is not what I said, Mr Mayor. All I can repeat it back. I said for the item regarding the Burriga Ag Bureau, I will remove myself when discussion is pertaining to that item, not the rest of this report. I'm mentioning the 3 things in here that I wish to raise, Mr Mayor, and as a councillor,
so how are you going to vote on this matter when the Burriga
I'm not discussing the Burriga Ag Bureau. I'm discussing other portions of the 356
I'm asking you, Councillor Hayden, how you're going to vote on this when an allocation to the Burriga Ag Bureau is made as part of the total allocation.
Mr Mayor, we haven't voted on all of these items. This is what we're meant to be doing.
No, we're not voting on it. We're voting
Mr Mayor, the last time we went into a committee of the whole, it was read out who gets what and come back, and that's the agreeable amount. At the minute, it's like governance is being removed from councillors. Governance is being removed from councillors. We're relying on a panel to put forward a suggestion, and none of us get any say into any of the allocations.
Council put a policy in place and resolved the panel be established to do this.
To do that and then bring it forward to the council for decision.
The governance hasn't been removed, point of order.
It
hasn't been removed, there's a policy.
Mr Mayor, I spoke earlier that I didn't want interruption when I was talking. I find that that's not in keeping with the Code of Meeting Practice.
Right, anyone else speaking on this? Yes, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to commend the panel for the work they've done on this, because I know it takes a long time and there's difficult decisions, and I'm more than happy with them.
I'd like to ask you, Councillor Hayden, on the matter that you have a conflict with. I understood from a comment that was made at the seniors lunch, the annual Burriga Sheep Show will be held this year, but not in the future. Is that the case?
No, the Burriga Sheep Show in the current format will be held this year, and then the sheep show portion of it will be removed, and it will be the Burriga Country Fair, and it won't be having the sheep show at the show.
So it will be held this year?
Yeah, it's the 66th final sheep show. So, Mr Mayor, if you're unhappy with me being here, I'll remove myself from voting if we're not going to vote independently.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, similar to Councillor Graham, I appreciate the work that the panel has done. I'm sure every one of us could look through everything on the list, and nobody would come up with exactly the same list. But the list, yeah, I can live with it. To answer Councillor Hayden's concerns, it clearly states that all we are voting on at the moment is endorsing the recommendations. That's all they are, they're just recommendations. So if Councillor Hayden or any councillor wants to put forward an amendment to say, let's include such and such, or let's knock out something or other else, or let's change the amount, that's open to them to do so, because at this stage it's only a recommendation. But I'm not proposing to do that with any of the proposed allocations.
Just if you could hold a sec, yep.
Just on exhibition. So notes the total amount of funding recommended for exhibition.
Sorry, Councillor Tucker, yes, thank you.
Yeah, and the other comment I was going to make was pleased to see that the total amount of funding recommended has come down very substantially from where we were a couple of years ago, and particularly with the way our finances are going, that's important. Maybe we can even get it down a little bit further in future, we'll see. And I was also pleased that, as was just said, that a number of organisations that do receive other benefits from council, they may be unquantified, but use of facilities, that seems to have reduced substantially, so I was pleased to see that as well. So I'm happy to support the recommendation.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just a final point I forgot to mention. We should never forget that in-kind donations total 400,000. I mean, it's a massive amount. It's a big burden for our little council. In addition to that, there's 3 village funds of $3,000. 5,000 each.
Sorry.
5,000 each. And that's an amazing amount of money. I mean, we should not forget that. And we are a small council doing our best. Thank you.
All right, I put the motion. Oh, sorry.
Through the chair, yeah, I'd like to commend the report, and I can see there's a huge amount of work involved in it. And bearing in mind, we've just got to take into account that ratepayers are paying for this, and I believe you guys have been very conscious of that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Look, as one of the members of the panel, I'm very comfortable. We carefully reviewed, all the applications against the, established criteria with a strong focus on community benefit, fairness, and aligned with the council's strategic priorities. At the same time, like all panel members acknowledge that not all applications can be funded, so which always is challenging, when given the need of the community.
Thank you,
So, yeah.
Right, I put the motion. All in favour? Carried by all councillors except Councillor Hayden. Yes. Four 2026 community survey results. The recommendation is council receive and notes the Oberon Community Survey 2026 summary report at the first phase of the community consultation of the 2026-27 integrated planning reporting framework. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Hayden, seconder. Councillor O'Connor, thank you. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move that. I note that the the number of people doing the survey is still very low, but I suppose it's almost 10%, which is probably all we can expect. I'd like to see more people do the survey, but it clearly identifies that roads, infrastructure and essential services are the highest priorities. And when I look across the reports that we get in council meetings, I see delays in delivery, reallocation of projects and increasing financial pressure. And my concern is whether we are aligning our decisions and resources with what the community has clearly told us that they value most. And if the survey is to mean anything, it must guide our decisions, not just sit in a report.
Thank you. Councillor O'Connor.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. It's a good report. I'd like to thank the community members who contributed. It certainly notes strongly about going back to core activities. The one not disappointing, but one that didn't give it much encouragement, the Director of Finance is trying to recover those in-kind donations, the in-kind contributions. It didn't seem as though that would have been well supported, but we press on, I guess.
Through the chair, yep,
Yeah.
some difficult decisions and balancing ahead, for sure.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I think we should all be concerned with question 9. How satisfied are you with the performance of Oberon councillors over the last 12 months? And there were other very dissatisfied or dissatisfied. We should be worried about that.
Yes. Any other comments? If not, I put the motion. All in favour? 4.6. 2026-27 integrated planning and reporting. The recommendation is that Council 1 notes the 2029 delivery program as Council's adopted 4-year strategy plan guiding the development of the annual operational plan and IPNR documents. 2, place the draft 2026-27 operational plan and 2026-27 to 2035-36 long-term financial plan on public exhibition for a minimum of 28 days and seek community feedback during the exhibition period. 3, place the draft 2026-27 statement of revenue policy on public exhibition, noting it includes the 2026-27 fees and charges and rating structure in accordance with Chapter 15, Part 1 of the Local Government Act 1993. 4, place the draft 2026 to 2029 Open Space Asset Management Plan on public exhibition for a minimum of 28 days as part of the Integrated Planning and Reporting Framework. 5, note that the previous endorsed Community Engagement Policy 1120 will guide the public exhibition and consultation process. 6, note the updated Workforce Management Plan 2025-2029, including the latest data sets from 2025-26. 7, endorse a total rental increase of $40 per week at the independent living units, inclusive of the previously endorsed utilities charge, with revised rents to commence from 1st September 2026, ensuring the required notice period is met. 8, delegate the authority to the General Manager to make any necessary editorial and content changes to the IPNR documents prior to public exhibition in order to give effect to Council's resolutions. Can I have a motion, please? Okay. I'll move it. Councillor Hayden, second it. Thank you. I think the documents speak for themselves. Councillor Hayden.
Look, I'm happy for it to go on exhibition. There was a few things in there I didn't agree with, but I'll put in a submission. Thank you.
Good. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I'm pretty impressed with the documents as well, and happy for them to go on exhibition. I just have a couple of quick questions. One relates to waste charges. So at our workshops, there was some mention of the option of having an LGA-wide charge, so reducing the town charge for wheeler bins and having a small charge LGA-wide to contribute to operation of tip and transfer stations. So as far as I can see, that hasn't ended up in these documents, and just wondering if much more thought was given to that, or why it wasn't included, and whether it was because we didn't show much enthusiasm for it.
Through the chair, as a part of the waste strategy action plans that we're investigating, which is presented in the operational plan, once those outcomes have come through, if this is something council is required to go through, it would be presented as part of the 27-28. We weren't in a position to provide for that this financial year.
Through the chair, I think you answered your own question to start with. But secondly, as Zoe has highlighted, I think that the high priority or the short-term waste strategy actions should be dealt with first before we go down that path, which is probably an add-on to your first comment to say that there wasn't much support for it.
We also talked about a minimum charge for going to the waste transfer station, so that's also, I think, in the same.
Yeah, and there's a follow-up question. I was thinking that I might put in a submission suggesting that we go ahead with that idea, but if it's too late for 26-27, then I'll let it go. But is it
definitely, through the chair, it's definitely not too late to have that considered.
Okay, righto.
It is a charge when it's all said and done, so it's something that we'd have to look at how you in fact collected that rate.
Well, it would be the on-rate notice. It's the same as the town bin charge.
Yeah, but that in itself comes with some process, so you have to just make sure that you quantify that appropriately.
And then the dollar amount, I did some rough figures, and I thought reducing the town fee from the proposed new fee of $280.50 down to about $250, but then adding a $20, not a $50 fee, LGA wide, I thought would create a fairer balance. But I'll refine that and put a submission in if I choose to. My one other question, and it goes back to the TI fund, but I think it's more appropriate to ask it as part of this item. So I know for 2 years there's an amount comes out of the TI Legacy Fund for administration costs for that fund, and it got me thinking about, so we've got all that TI money, currently 600,000, it would have been more this time last year, presumably sitting in an investment earning interest somewhere. So does the interest earned on that TI money go back to boosting the TI Legacy Fund? And if not, why not?
Through the chair.
Yes.
The investments don't go through into the TI fund specifically because the overheads never met the requirement of the administrative charges, which is why the decision was made not to put the interest back into the town improvement funds, because there was additional charges that aren't directly linked appropriately. So the general fund was subsidising the TI fund historically, which was why the interest never went back.
So I think Zoe's saying that the interest is helping to cover the administration of the TI fund, because the TI fund does not have a separate amount allocated for administering its.
They're saying that the amount that is taken from the TI fund for admin doesn't cover the admin cost. Thank you.
Is that it?
That's it. Thank you.
Councillor O'Connor.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Regarding Councillor Tucker's comments about waste and rubbish removal, I think in the IPNR we discussed that, had a bit of a discussion, and I think for me, I'm very strong on this one, that user pays, and currently for people in town, $250 roughly, it's about a cup of coffee a week. For people out the farm, out rural, it's somewhere between $500 and $1,500 a year to have their waste removed, and that's and don't forget, remember what the Mayor said, that we don't want them digging a hole and putting it in a hole, so rural residents are now disadvantaged. So then to have a flat fee just seemed incredulous to me that it could be proposed, given that it's a cup of coffee a week. Thank you.
Interesting debate.
I won't respond.
It'll be an interesting debate. Councillor Lee.
Another comment.
Sorry, do you want to reply on that specific issue just before?
Through the chair, you know, through this discussion, we've followed it for quite some time. Although I would say it's a great topic that we can really highlight through the consultation process of IPNR. We really aim to try and flesh out what the community thinks about the different options for waste.
And everyone can put in submissions will help. Thank you, Councillor.
Yes, just another comment on the recommendation 7, just with the $40 increase. I'm just thinking, could we add, or think about adding that it will be reviewed yearly, a rent increase. So if we've sort of finished it this year, also regarding CPI, so next year we look at another review of adding X amount on to get it up to you know, a rent where.
Well, do you want to put a comment at the end? No, I mean, if you can say this is for just this year. Every year we come up with a different set of documents. So next year we'll have a similar resolution to this. And it might include another $40 a week rent, and that'll be reviewed on the basis of CPI and other charges and how again it compares with market rents. So we could do that, but I think it's probably not needed because we're going to be doing this yearly.
Fair enough. Just so, yeah.
That's correct, is that correct?
Through the chair, yeah. So the rent is captured through your statement of revenue policy each year, where council determines if that fee is applicable, and we intend to review that rental each year with a minimum CPI.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on this matter? If not, I put the motion as per the recommendation in 8 parts. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors.
Quick break.
Quick break. Yes, I will. Sorry, I'll
Bring to that. I'll bring to it.
You're okay.
We haven't been
Section 5. So Section 5 is closed session reports. In accordance with Local Government Act 1993 and the Local Government General Regulations, in the opinion of the General Manager, 5.1 sewage treatment plant project upgrade is of the kind as referred to in section 10A2 of the Act and should be dealt with as part of the meeting closed to the media and the public. Can I have someone move us into confidential, please? Thank you, Councillor Hayden. Second to Councillor Leveris. All in favour? Can we cease the recording, please? During the confidential section of the meeting, 5.1 sewage treatment plant project update. The following motion was passed. It was moved by Councillor Tucker, seconded by Councillor Leveris. That Council note the update on the construction of the replacement Oberon sewage treatment plant. I note that the next meeting of Council, ordinary meeting of Council, will be held on the 19th of May, Tuesday the 19th of May at 5:30 p.m. in Council Chambers. I declare this meeting closed at 5:27 p.m. Thank you everyone for your attendance.